Welcome, everybody, to my podcast. I own this. Today, I have Chris Gronkowski. I always struggle with your name. Please say it properly for me.
I like that way. Chris Gronkowski, but
Gronkowski. I love it.
I
I love the
haven't heard
accent.
it.
I love it. And I'm so thrilled. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. And you got snow in Dallas, which I didn't know they actually have snow in Dallas. But they have snow in Dallas today. And so his kids are around and stuff, and he's taking his time to be here with me, managing parenting and kids at the same time. Thank you so much, Chris, for being here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we might have some snowballs whipped at the glass over here, but so far so good.
Oh, so awesome. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the amazing Chris. Okay, I'm going to do a little bio, and some of you already know him, but a little bio here from Chris. I want to be able to say Chris is a former NFL player turned entrepreneur. He is the entrepreneur of the Ice Shaker. I got the privilege, there you go, the privilege to actually have one and got his signature as well. And seen him on Shark Tank was amazing to see all your brother and go, ooh. I was like, I wish I was one of the boys.
Chest bumps.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. One other thing I really love about Chris is that you have a level of confidence, but you're so humble and so down to earth, which is so refreshing. So, thank you for just being you and for being here. I'm so thrilled. Like, I'm over the moon. So, all of my ideas are like popping all over the place. So, Chris, let's just dive in. The topic of today is the underdog mentality. So, tell me, how did you actually learn to earn it and kind of embrace it and took control of it and leverage it to your advantage?
yeah. So I guess going back to the childhood, I'm the middle of five boys.
Hmm.
With that, four of us made it to the NFL, and that was because my brothers are massive. I'm the smallest in the family at about 6'2". And with that, was growing up in Buffalo, New York, and was always told by really by teachers and by everyone that if you want to play sports at the next level, especially coming out of Buffalo, New York, it was really a one in a million chance. And I knew I wasn't even the best in my own family. So with that, I grew up thinking I would never really make it to that next level, but always put the effort in, always tried, and always did everything I could to be the best that I could be. And just the work paid off. I was able to go to college for free on a full scholarship to play
Hmm.
Division I football, and eventually made it to the NFL as well, and played for 3 seasons for three different teams. So hard work pays off, that's for sure. And I guess when you have no other options and you have that mentality that you're going to make it no matter what, you can accomplish a lot.
Oh, I love it. Take us back a bit because reading your book, like reading a part of the your books, your story, it was so amazing. But it's just the way you actually set it up. One of the things I really love was you wanted to change. Like you gone to university, you got your education, and you wanted to make sure that in your family, is it university? Did I get that correctly, Chris?
Yeah, I went to the University of Arizona.
Yes, exactly. And you wanted to make sure that not only you're a family of just sport accomplished individual, but you also had the intellect that accompanies that, which I thought was amazing because you are a very diversified personality. So, but take us back to that mentality, like when you have that underdog mentality of like being the smallest and then being told that it's going to be one in a million that you'll ever succeed. What actually kept you motivated going, I'm gonna give it a try anyway and put in that effort, even though people tell you like you're not gonna make it.
Yeah, I think growing up in a household of five boys really brought the competition out of me, and really out of all my brothers. I got asked a bunch of times if I thought I'd ever make it to the next level if it wasn't for my brothers. And really, people would ask this question because they felt like I only made it because my brother was a good player and a future Hall of Famer. The truth is, he's actually younger than me. So I came before him. That had nothing to do with the situation. And the NFL doesn't care who your family members are. There's a lot of Hall of Famers,
Yeah.
uh, kids or brothers, or dads, and they didn't make it at that level. It's all about making money and winning games. So I always tell them though that yes, it did matter who my brother was because we held each other accountable. We played together on the same teams in the high school level, college level. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play with any of my brothers at the NFL level, but some of them got to play together. But to
Hmm.
keep you accountable, if there's anyone that's going to keep you accountable, it's your brother. If you walk into a film room after a game, he's going to let you know every single bad play that you had and tell every single person about it. And vice versa. You know, if you have a great game, you're going to sit there and you're going to show your brother, tell him to listen up or watch this next play and kind of brag to him about how great it was and how much better you are than him. So ultimate accountability was having your brother on your same team as you. And I think that really pushed us to compete against each other and
Mhm.
to really push each other to the next level. So that was kind of it for me. It was always, I couldn't let my little brother beat me. And I wanted to beat my older brother as well and everything we
Uh-huh.
did. That was kind of the mentality that came into play. For me, being smaller, shorter, the least recruited out of all the brothers,
Hmm.
I've always had underdog mentality, and it was kind of what forced almost a no options mentality out of me. I
Yeah.
had no options but to succeed because I didn't want to be that guy that got asked the rest of his life, what happened to you? Why were you the only one that didn't go to Division 1? Why were you the only one that didn't play football at the highest level? So I knew that story was coming if I didn't.
Mm.
So to me, there was no option but to make it to the highest level. And I did whatever it took to get there.
It's so good. That kind of helps answer something. But I wanted to give two little things. A shout out to your mom, because honestly, five boys. I don't know how
Same.
she did that and managed to make it all work and using the contact and the friends, the community, making sure that everybody made it to the game and never missed anything and had meal, had lunch and everything. Now that you have kid, you know how much work that's involved, right?
Insane amounts, especially with no cell phone, no
Yes.
GPS back in the day. Uh, it just crazy to think that she was able to accomplish that when it wasn't even physically possible to drive us all of our practices and games because there's five boys and we were all playing multiple sports. So every year, I have more and more respect for both my parents, but my mom had a full-time job just raising us, feeding us, and getting us to school and to practices and
Mm.
religion classes and everything else you can imagine. So, ton of respect for my parents.
Yeah, respect to all of the parents that are making sure that their kids get a chance and opportunity to fulfill their dream. The second thing that I wanted to say is the no options mentality. A lot of people, like I read so many different books, like one that I think about, like not recent, but I read so many books. But Eminem, and then there was also 50 Cents. It was what do you say? He had an expression is something die trying. It's either succeed or die trying, which I really love. I actually wrote it in my stuff. So how do you get to that mentality of like, I get the fact that we say, like for you, like the story is coming if you actually didn't make it there. But for those who are out there and going like they don't have that story of like I wish I could say as an entrepreneur as much as I write that line down like but there are times when you're struggling and you're like well it's succeeding is the only option. How do you close it and keep it like the focus on honing it down?
Um, a couple different ways. First, I think having someone to hold you accountable is huge.
Mm,
That it came from me automatically, just with the competition with my own brothers.
yes.
And that continued on after sports as well, with with business and really with staying in shape and
Yes.
talking trash and the whole deal. It still continues today. So I was lucky enough to naturally have that. But to find someone else that can help you with your fitness journey or with your business or really any of the goals that you're trying to reach, find someone that can compete with you and really push you in that area.
Mhm.
I think the other thing is just being organized. Something
Mm.
that I lacked, especially early on. I was someone that just wanted to get everything done that day and just put the work in. But without a plan and without being organized, it's hard to move
Mhm.
and hard to know where you're going. So that came with maturity and a couple of years into the business and really realizing that there's got to be some kind of game plan here if we want to continue to move forward with the business and get goals on
Mhm.
paper and actually achieve them. So Good strategy that I use and I still use. I'll write down the most important things that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I personally like to either delete them or scratch them off. It just makes you feel like you accomplished something that
Mm-hmm.
day.
Yeah.
And it's more of a mentality as well that you
Mm-hmm.
feel good about it, you accomplished it, but you also never forget something either. You have it written down, and
Yeah.
at times for me, it's just a draft email where I'll just list the notes of things I need to do that day.
Mm-hmm.
Just continue to go back to it because I can pull it up on my phone or my computer or anywhere I'm at just to make sure that I accomplish those top 5 tasks of the day. And if I don't,
Mm-hmm.
they're there for me tomorrow. So just having them written down and having a game plan and being organized has helped a lot as well.
I love that. There's so many things. I keep saying I love that because they're all like, whoa, they all make sense. So tell me about this. Like, I love the idea. So you have 5 things that you set in terms of goal, and it's always visible so that you feel like you can scratch them out, feel like productive and you conquered it. So like in your top 5, and something that I think that you kind of allude to is that when you don't complete all 5 of them, I think it's important not to beat yourself up. A lot of time, well, I know I do it. I don't know about you. When I don't get things off of my checklist, I would beat myself up. And then the other thing that I try to do that is there's an expression in a book is eat the frog first. So I do the hard stuff first. Some people like to start slow and then build it up, whatever your preference is and whatever works for you. But me, I like to eat the frog first, get it out of my way. So mentally, it doesn't drain me. And then once that's off, then it's easier to get to the rest of the tasks and it goes faster. So is that a little bit of your strategy?
Yeah, for sure. I never heard that term, but I like that. Yeah, I wake up and I'm refreshed and I'm ready to attack some of the harder tasks during the day.
Yeah.
Usually I'll do that for an hour or two, and then I'll actually go get a workout in to kind of refresh and regenerate and get back to it after that. So I always try to hit the one most important and hardest thing of the day in the morning.
Yeah, because it moves this your objective or it moves this your business goal much faster. I mean, I had to learn the hard way, but there's many different books out there of how to stay focused. And talk to me about, because I'm diverging a little bit from the questionnaire because there's so many juicy things here, but I'm also looking at the time as well. So I want to make sure that, you have enough time too. But talk to me about like your transition from going from being a football player to becoming an entrepreneur, like how that came to be a little bit. I know you spoke about it with Kyle Wilson in the presentation, but for our audience.
Yeah, for sure. So I was in my 4th season. I ended up getting hurt in training camp and had to go and rehab for about 3 months and try to get back in the NFL. Ended up going to a tryout and tearing my hamstring at that point. So continued to rehab and try to get back, but I knew it wouldn't last forever for me. I was lucky enough that my wife had started her own business and I realized there was a lot of potential with it. And I went all in with her for the first 5 years after my NFL career. So it was a startup. We were doing it out of our own house. It was an engraving company, and I realized the more I engraved, the more money I made. And really, there was days where I would work probably over 12 hours a day just engraving out of my own house. And uh, it was a lot, but I was young, didn't have kids yet, super ambitious. And, it really actually filled the time and that void of playing. So if you're busy and you're working towards a goal, you kind of forget about, things that you really were passionate about previously that you're trying to get off your mind. So
Mm.
uh, you always think about going back or what it could have been if you tried one more season or whatever the deal was. But for me, it truly was an injury that I had surgery on and
Mhm.
try to rehab it and come back from, or just give it up and move on to the next thing, which wasn't many people knocking on my door for the NFL anymore at that point. It was a good transition for me. I was able to take my mind off of sports and move on pretty easily because I knew I had something great to work towards.
Wow. It's good. Like it's so good that you were able to grasp that because sometimes a lot of athletes that I've met and had the chance to speak to have they get stuck. into the athlete profile and the image that they had and everything that they worked so hard on, they stay stuck in that. So it's actually beautiful to see you transition kind of really nicely and have that mindset that, this is the new thing and getting the new passion. So it was great that you didn't have kids then. So talk to me about now that having kids, how do you juggle it all between, spending time for personal, taking care of yourself, and then the couple, taking care of your couple as well, raising wonderful children, taking them to all these different sports stuff. How do you balance it all?
A calendar and a great team. I knew when I had my first son, it was actually about a year after I started the business. So the goal was kind of to get to a point where I could coach and be around with the kids once they were at that age that they were playing sports. So a couple of years ago, that was kind of really the main focus was let's build the team out. Let's get it to a point where if I'm not here, this
Mm,
company can run on its own. And when I am here, the goal is to continue to build and make it stronger and bigger. But everyone kept kind of telling me that if you want to have a successful business, it's got to be to a place where you can leave for a month and nothing changes and it's still successful. So
hmm
that's what I went for. I wrote down all the tasks on a piece of paper that I was doing, and then I started divvying them out to see how many different people I would actually need to cover how much I was doing.
Yeah.
I was probably doing two or three jobs at that point, and
hmm
then brought in multiple people to come in and kind of take that over for me.
hmm
Still work in progress. I still feel like there's plenty more that I could divvy out, but I
hmm
like being involved and I like being a part of it. And it's a passion of mine to keep growing this company. So
hmm
I'll continue to do so. But that's really what it took was talking to mentors like my dad, who's been in business for over 30
hmm
years, and some other local business leaders to really figure out how to get to that point where I'm not 100% needed in the company and that I can
hmm
focus on other things.
Yeah, talk to me about the game plan because you talked a lot about good preparation and organization. And I know that mentally and logically, but how do you go about in breaking down a good game plan? Like, how do you know when it comes to a business? Like, because that is the thing is that business owner become they are so consumed and they're touching every aspect of it. So it's good that you're able to see it and say within 1 month, if I'm not there, it's still running on its own. How do we start, like for people who are, just starting out, how do they plan that game plan?
For me, it was more just looking at the numbers and breaking down the business financially
Mm-hmm.
to a point where I knew what I could afford and what I had to do to get to those levels. So my dad actually showed me kind of his breakdown of his business where he
Mm-hmm.
separated everything into different profit centers or loss centers. So I actually split the business into five different pieces. And then kind of figured out from there what salaries I could pay each person, how much each portion of the business was actually making or losing the company. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of how I figured out my game plan. It actually got to a point where I could pretty much forecast my exact numbers that I would make for that year, just based on previous data and what I was going to then do in my plan moving forward. So, if I wanted to spend another 100K on salaries, what would that do for the company? What would it look like? What would it look like for profit and losses? And became just a great model for me to use to game plan moving forward. And that's what I do every year in January now. So current
Mm.
at plan for 2025. And when you do it right and you put the time and effort into it and you follow the game plan, you can pretty much predict exactly how much you're going to sell and profit before the year even starts, which is pretty awesome.
That's pretty
I
awesome.
do that at this
Yeah.
point.
Wow, that is quite something, and something that resonate. And yes, about your dad. So kudo to dad for. And I remember reading in the book at the beginning, didn't want to really hear the part of your dad, and then he was asking you about like, what's your plan? Like, what do you got? Like, and all these things. And eventually, you kind of let him in and gave his expertise and share that expertise. So, what came out of that is that it's always good to actually surround yourself with people who've done it and have the success so that they can actually show and you can emulate from them. So, I'm learning from you, Chris, at the same time, as well as our audience. And lastly, before I jump into the other question, is I wanted to ask, like, when you didn't have any kids and you were dedicating 12 hours of doing your wife's business, like, what was the thinking and the decision making between you and a wife to say, like, okay, for the next couple of years, we're going to be dedicating our time to this? How do you, if you're working 12 hours a day, how do you find times for the couple and still have time for you?
Uh, there's still, I mean, I say this all the time. I mean, in a day, there's 24 hours. You really only need 8 hours of sleep. And I actually wasn't even coming close to getting that. So, with that, I mean, even if you're working 12 hours a day, you still got 4 hours where you're kind of chilling and doing whatever you want to. So, there's a lot of time in the day. People just find lots of ways to waste that time. So,
Mm,
I was using up a lot of it for sure.
mm.
And I wasn't sleeping much between the businesses when I started Ice Shaker as well. But I don't know. I just had a work mentality. It was kind of from playing sports and being super competitive, but
Yes.
found time to hang out with the family when needed.
Uh-huh.
But at that point in my life, it was all about just grinding it out and putting the work in.
Yeah, because you guys have an objective. So I think like that's it. There was a commitment and there's that mentality and there was that vision. So you guys kind of hone into that vision together. I would imagine.
Absolutely. And she was there with me doing it. So
Yeah, that's it. So you get
we're hanging out all day long.
That's it. Oh, thank you for that. So I'm gonna jump on to the other question is that if you had 2 to 3 tips, because I want to make sure we have about like 16 minutes left, and so that the kids can actually spend quality time with their dad as well. So if you had 2 to 3 tips to share with the audience of something that you can actually be able to pass on to your younger self, what is that tip of like being the underdog mentality and succeeding?
Yeah, I mean, tip number one for sure is hard work's always going to pay off.
Hmm.
I think that's with everything. It doesn't matter if you don't actually make it to the highest level. Say at a sport, the thing is I have actually hired multiple guys that I played with while in college that didn't make it to the highest level, but I knew they were hard workers. I knew they had great mentalities, and they're going to find a way to be successful somewhere, even if it's not necessarily at a sport where God-given talent is a part of the factor. So hard work always pays off, and that doesn't always equate to being a professional athlete, but it will pay off in other ways, in other businesses and other relationships. Uh,
Hmm.
Definitely for me, number one.
Hmm. And talk to me about hard work, like quickly. I'm gonna pause on this. What about people who are like, oh, well, yeah, I'm willing to put in some hard work without self-sacrificing myself. So how do you tell and encourage those people, yes, you need to put in the effort. So what to what extent, like if people are saying, like, I want to be able to put in those hard work, but I also want to be able to not self-sacrifice in the process, what would you answer them?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's put those 8 hours in a
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
but really put the work in. You don't have to take an entire day like I was doing
Hmm.
to accomplish a lot. I mean, if you really do focus and lock down and have a game plan, 8 hours a day is a lot to get a lot done. So instead of spending half of it, grabbing coffee and talking to friends and sitting on your phone, put a true 8 hours in, that you're getting paid to do anyways,
Hmm.
and that's going to equate to a ton of success if you're really putting the time and effort into it.
I agree. And do you actually notice, like I noticed something, I started shifting for 2025. So before I could never wake up at 5 in the morning. So this is like, we set like the first on our January 1st for the new year, we set new goal with my boyfriend. We kind of reflected on 2024, our goals that we want to accomplish, and we keep each other accountable as my accountability partner. So like, what would you say like oh my God, the memory just kind of flew away. Need to call him back here. Okay, so I was saying with regards to keeping account. No. That's not the hours. Oh, boy, Chris. This is after having kids, the brain cell just go
I
completely.
know, I know.
But I'll come back to that. But I wanted to make sure as well. So what would be like the second tip that you would give people? Do you have a second tip for them with
Yeah,
regards
for
to
sure.
like
So
younger version of you?
absolutely. Hard work, it obviously
Hmm.
one part of it. Number two is just finding a way to get better every day or
Right.
find a way to do it better as well. I mean, you could do the same work over and over and over. At some point, you got to find a way to do it more consistently or better. Um, and just find a way to continue to get better. That's kind of the goal with the company. With Ice Shaker, it was always, hey, we're great, but how do we be better tomorrow? How do
Mm-hmm.
we have better customer service? How do we get things out the door faster? That was kind of it. Every month, it was a way to get better at something that we were doing. And so, hard work, number one,
Mm-hmm.
try to get better, and then three, really, it's just consistency.
Mm-hmm.
If people know you're going to show up and they know you're going to get it done, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
keep back and they're going to keep trusting you, and you're just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. The business is kind of how I saw it. So I really realized that early on with the consistency factor.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like, let's be super successful here and grow as fast as you possibly can. But you don't realize that it takes time and it
Yeah.
takes consistent efforts and outputs to really grow. And if you do it right, people are just going to keep coming back and they're going to keep telling other people because there's so few people
Mm-hmm.
actually consistent and that you can trust at that point. So there's customers we've had since day one
Mm-hmm.
um, for an insane amount of people and have continued to come back just
Mm-hmm.
because we continue to do what we promised to do with
Yeah.
our fulfillment times, and we take care of our customers, and just a
Mm-hmm.
consistency that they know they're going to come to us and they're going to get it,
Mm-hmm.
going to get it on
Mm-hmm.
time. Same product's going to be quality. So
Yeah.
kind of the things that I see that I would tell my younger self, just because when you're young, you think you can conquer the world, you think you can
Yeah.
take anything. There was when I started Ice Shaker, I was still trying to do three or four other things at the same time. Uh,
Mhm.
and I just didn't realize that it wasn't going to work.
So you focus on one thing. You went from three or four different things to focusing on honing in one thing only.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true because we disperse all of our energy thinking that, we're gonna be successful in one, but if you hone in the one thing that is really the crucial, the most important, that's a really good point. The other thing too that you had mentioned, Chris, was I wanted to be able to say to the people who are talking and they're struggling with consistency, like how does one keep, do you sometimes struggle with like not like slacking off on the consistency and how do you get back on the train, and without beating yourself up?
I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I've been so just programmed to be on a schedule because of sports
Yeah.
that it's hard for me to actually get off of a schedule at this point.
Mm. But think
Um,
about when you were like younger at the beginning, because you had to be molded to become this Chris that you are with the mentality that you have now. But if you could remember, I don't know if you do, because it's going back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, even since really high school, I was playing every sport, so there was always a schedule of wake up, go to school, go to sports, come home,
Mhm.
do homework, the whole deal. So college was even harder with the schedule. You really had to uh, really get your tasks down, multitask. Really, being a student athlete was a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that whole scheduling side of things and having kind of a plan for the day and an
Hmm.
itinerary is just built into me because I've been doing it for so long. So for me to wake up and not have some kind of itinerary or game plan for the day drives me crazy. Uh, kind of, we have a free day on a Sunday. The first thing I ask my wife is like, "Hey, what's the game today?"
Are you, so that being said, do you manage to be able to relax when it's time to relax, or is your mind kind of wired to like produce?
I'm getting a little better
Okay.
at that. I think it's more the fact that I'm just absolutely drained after a full day with the kids.
Right.
So, but yeah, I still still hard for me to just have a day where I don't do anything and just kind of chill.
What about when you do go on vacation? Are you able to do that?
Those are usually work half of the time on vacation, but
Oh,
good consistency where I actually that's when I kind of feel the best is get a couple hours of work in and
yeah.
then have time with the family the rest of the day and feel like you accomplished something, which you
Hmm.
do. If you have an hour or two in the morning, you actually get a lot done
Hmm.
uh, and enjoy the rest of the day. So that's kind of that's how I relax the
That's where
best.
your sweet spot is. Okay, that's awesome. So we're coming close to the end, and I want to be able to leave you with this. Always something that I wanted you to expand on really quickly, because you talk about delegation, delegating your stuff to as many people, and you're practicing on getting better at delegation. So talk to the audience that are struggling with delegating tasks.
For sure. Yeah. I always felt like it was my responsibility to take on everything. So almost felt bad about saying, hey, this is something you need to do when I could do it myself. But
Mhm.
I didn't, oh, we got a kid. We got first appearance of the day.
Yeah.
So at first it was hard for me to tell someone, hey, take this task on. And when I'm like, wow, I can do it myself and I'm pretty good at it. Why would I have them do it? And eventually came to the point where I wasn't great at it because I didn't have the time to do it and put the full effort in. And the fact is I brought this person in to do that. And
Hmm.
it's kind of when I really thought about it, it would be like a coach bringing me in
Mm.
uh, to play and just not play. And
Yeah.
how I feel about that, I would feel like, well, why am I here? There's no point. I'm not using my talents, for the teams. And that was the same thing as not delegating. When I finally did, and I started giving my guys and girls more responsibilities, they were actually excited about it. They were like, "Thank you. That's why I'm here. I'm excited to take it on. I can't wait to do this and help the company grow." And it was kind of the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen when I delegated, and it made me realize that that's going to make them feel more a part of it because that's why they're here. That's what they're trying to do in the first place, and that's why I
Mhm.
brought them in. So
Yeah.
let them do their job and be a part of it and be great at what they do. And now I was a player. There was coaches, there was assistant coaches, there was staff in the front office, and no one did each other's job. And so I shouldn't be doing that as the owner of the company. I shouldn't be the head coach and the player at the same time. It just doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
I
And one of
tell them
the, yeah.
that's really how you got to look at it. And once you do,
Hmm.
just completely changes your mindset and you become a true leader because you can finally give your team what they're looking to do.
Yeah, that's what they say. A good leader, but when you're playing sport, that's what they always say. You have to trust the people in the position to do their job and not you playing
Sure.
their position for them. So before we move on to the little quote that you're going to leave the audience and inspire them and to close off, I wanted to also ask this because I'm intrigued. Like, so how do you decipher, like, how do you pick out good employee to be a part of your team? What are your scanning process? I'm just curious. This is off the script of what I had asked you, but since we're on it, how do you go about in saying like that's the person I want to hire to be a part of my team?
Yeah, I there's been a lot of different versions of this over the years because I had no idea what I was doing. Um, really at the beginning, and it was more about just hiring anyone that I could somewhat trust, and
Mhm.
if they're friends or family, I'd hire them even though they weren't actually qualified for what we were trying to do. Uh,
Mm.
so for me, I actually don't really look at degrees for the most part.
Mhm.
It's more about if they have the mentality to work hard, that's always a huge plus. And then really like I like to see people that have some kind of sports background at this
Mhm.
point as well, especially a team sport. And it could be just high school. But really that teamwork atmosphere is what we're looking for and accomplishing goals as a team. So that's been a bigger focus of mine recently when looking to hire people.
I think that's fabulous that you're able to give back to the people that are in the sport in the passion that you have. So, so amazing. And I know the kids needs you, so I'm gonna let you end with a quote. And I think I put it in the questionnaire. So, do you have a favorite quote that has served you well in your life or recently that really resonate with you that you want to end on the show and share your wisdom with all of us?
Yeah, for sure. So The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, WWE. course, growing up, we're wrestling fans, and my mom
Hmm.
always let us watch it because we get a little too crazy and drop some elbows on people. But yeah, the Rock has a quote, and the quote I like that he has is success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work gains success. Greatness will come. It's just something that I kind of live by and have talked about today as well. And just something that I truly believe and have seen myself in sports and in business.
Thank you so much for that. It's so inspirational because I'm in the process where I'm trying to hustle as an entrepreneur and trying to balance a regular job at the same time. And then going, what's the point after so many years? I'm not seeing the result that I want to see, but I think that is a beautiful reminder to keep being consistent, perfecting, learning to become better every single day and keep at it. At some point, maybe for some people it's faster for them. Maybe it would take me 20 years, but as long as I'm passionate about what I do and just keep going. So thank you, Chris, for that inspiration. Very, very helpful and so true to all our younger audience and the younger generations. Thank you so much for being here, for squeezing it all in, managing with the kids. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think that was perfect timing because there's now a lot of streaming going on in the background.
Exactly.
Me
So
talking a
on
lot
that
more.
note, yes, on that note, we want to wish everybody an amazing Friday. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. We'll stay in touch, but have an amazing day with the kids. Enjoy their presents.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a great
You're
one.
welcome. Bye.
Take care.
Take care. You too.